Having lost it, I can tell you, youth matters. It matters. So I'm going to just talk about one youth issue that hadn't been dealt with. When the GI Bill became everything Rich said it was, paving the path to opportunity, it was the first legislation of its kind. We didn't have all that many people going to college and universities in America or anywhere else. And because we got there first and we rose faster, it built the great American middle class of the late 20th century. By the 21st century, everybody else had figured it out. And you had all these other countries, many of them smaller than we were, trying to do exactly the same thing. Meanwhile, the cost of college had gone up twice the rate of inflation. All over the country, state legislators were cutting back on the money they were sending to colleges. I'm not talking about just since the financial crash. I'm talking about for the last 20 years, as the public school student body grew larger than ever before. And the anti-tax fervor that his opponent represents was cutting money away from state and local government. So colleges got in more trouble, and young people had to rely more and more on loans and scholarships to pay the bills, whether they were going to undergraduate school or medical school or something in between. So roll around to 2012, and instead of being first or second in the world in percentage of our young adults with four-year college degrees, we have fallen to 16th. And that is very bad news for the American dream and for our future. We got to get back up at the top of the heap. So, one of the things that is going to help us through this is the remarkable student loan reform passed by the Congress that the President signed a few years ago, 2009. Here's what it does. Big issue in the Senate race. I want you to understand, this is a clear issue. Every young person here and every not so young person who knows about this should know about this. This alone should be enough to determine the course of this Senate race. Used to be the federal student loan program was essentially a guarantee by the federal government of banks loaning money to students. When I was president, we started making that optional, and we gave colleges a chance to essentially certify the students they had for the federal student loan program. We would loan them the money direct, put aside a loan reserve to make them safe, and guess what? The average student in the 1990s saved $1,300 in interest payments on every $10,000 they borrowed. And because they could pay those loans back, they all paid back, because we let them pay the loans back as a small fixed percentage of their income. That is now the law everywhere in the United States. To pay this loan back as a fixed percentage of their income. And what does that mean? Number one, you never have to drop out of college again, never, because you're worried about the cost. And number two, it means when you do get out, you don't have to take a job because of your loan payments. Your loan payments will be determined by the job you take. So if some young Richard Carmona wants to go to work for the sheriff's department or to be a school teacher or a nurse, they can afford to do it because the loan they have to pay off will be paid off in monthly increments as a fixed percentage of their income and no more. Now that's a huge deal. Believe it or not, that actually saved you as taxpayers $60 billion over 10 years. It was cheaper than the old system. So what was done with the money? It was put into guaranteeing continued increases in Pell Grants and the continuation of the tax credits for tuition. So, a big part of the so-called Ryan budget and the commitment of Governor Romney is to, well, I'm telling you, I couldn't make this up. These people are concerned about the debt. A big part of their commitment is to repeal that law, the old system, give the $60 billion to the banks, reducing Pell Grants in the future, putting the tax credits in question, making the student loans more expensive, and making them hard to repay. If you believe in the legacy of the GI Bill that made this man, if you want there to be a 21st century modern American middle class with good education, you've got to vote for Rich Carmona. There are thousands upon thousands upon thousands of university students, never mind their parents, brothers, and sisters, who don't even know this. There were people in this audience who did not know it until I told you tonight. So tomorrow, I want you to start going up to total strangers on the street and saying, you got to vote for Rich Carmona because of ASU and the University of Arizona and all the other colleges in this state, and the promise that the change in the student loan law opens for